Okay, come on, computer. I was telling Charlene that I woke up and came in here to my office and worked in here this morning, and it was about 7:30 that the alarm goes off on this sensor up here on the ceiling. And I'm just like, okay, what the heck's going on? I did notice a little bit of water on the floor, a little puddle of water. So anyway, I had to reach up there and grab that sensor and pull it down, and it was sopping wet. And then when I did that, I could see where it was dripping down. And it turns out that there was a pipe that had sprung a leak, a pinhole leak. And it was way over here on the other side of my room. So I had to clear out everything over the top. Fortunately, I just put a plastic over all my computer stuff. And then they came in and they proceeded to cut 4 holes in my ceiling. And so now I've got holes up here, and it smells a bit musty because everything was wet. So they got to let it dry. So my day's been an interesting day already.
Sorry.
No, it's actually okay. And you know what? This class has helped me.
Oh, be happy.
About happiness. So I'm hoping to share with you all tonight some really cool stuff that I'm starting to put together. You know, and I've got the Frequency 101. That's been a really good way to accomplish things as we go through it, and the 5.5 parts of you with different things going on that way with the internal part of you. But I just couldn't figure out, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this started so that you all are able to take advantage of it. And of course, we are on a time. You know, we want to try and keep this within an hour. Some really cool stuff. And so I'm working with people, and I'm just like, there's a lot of people, no matter it seems like what we do, they still aren't happy. Mm-hmm. And I fall into that category too. And I'm just like, you know, okay, so everything's kind of like, what is it that's going to take it that would make me happy? And as I was working with this stuff, I watched 2 movies. We watched them back to back. One was Rocket Man with Elton John. Has anybody seen that?
No.
Okay, so it's an interesting movie. You know, it's going to be on Netflix, and I think we watched it on HBO or something like that. But anyway, it talks about Elton John's life and how he went from nothing, you know, and not feeling loved in his home to his amazing lifestyle that he created. You know, he made tons and tons of money. He was everywhere, but it seemed like everywhere he was controlled or manipulated, or he just was miserable. All he wanted was to have that peace, that he wanted his dad to hug him. And so we watched that one, and that was quite the eye-opener for me. Here's a guy who had everything. And then I also watched, in fact, I've got slides for this. Let me just share the screen with you. Okay, everybody knows who I am. It's a MasterMind class. Let's see. Next. And this stuff that we're going to learn tonight is based on happiness, Happy for No Reason, written by Marcy Shimoff, I think is how you say her name. She was one of the people that was in The Secret in the book. I don't remember her so much in the movie as I do in the book. And so she wrote this book, and this is the other thing that I'm basing this on. And I just thought it was really, really good. So I'm going to use that and tie it in with my stuff, like I always do, and create some charts and everything else off of that. But you get as the mastermind, you know, this is a free version of my training. You're going to get the promo, you might say, and some of the cool stuff that I've discovered just since I've been able to work with this. So the question, once again, is what is happiness? It's not fame. So I was talking about Rocket Man with Elton John, and then, I don't know, have you seen the movie Bohemian Rhapsody? Which is the group Queen. You know, they play that different songs. Awesome, awesome again. And you learn about Freddie Mercury. That was the name he gave himself, who was in that group. He was the lead singer, and he had everything except happiness. He just couldn't seem to find that happiness. So once again, it was acceptance. and he actually ended up dying of AIDS. It was quite a story. I recommend both of the videos or both movies because I think it's interesting to see people that have that kind of situation. You know, I've worked with a lot of people that I would consider to be famous or celebrities. And it's fascinating to me to see the people that I thought that teach it, that work with different aspects of it, they've been through their share of unhappiness. And I thought that's really interesting. You know, you think about it, it's not about the thing so much as it is another aspect of it that we're going to go into. You know, this is something. My granddaughter had a birthday party, and she turned 6. So what did she do? She invited 21 friends over.
Wow.
So she had 21 friends. They had a big bounce house with water, and it was just a fun time for everybody. And the crazy thing is that when it got time for the presents, I mean, the whole table was filled with different kinds of presents because there's 21 kids in there. And so they do this big thing out there on the floor in the living room, and they start going through it. And you know, if you think about it, what is the best part of Christmas? It's not actually opening the presents.
Oh.
It's the anticipation and seeing what you get to do. Would everybody agree with me on that? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. You know, it's amazing to me. That's exactly what I think about. You know, I order stuff on Amazon, and I'm all excited about it. And then it finally comes, and then sometimes I'll get the package. I know it's in it, so I just leave it. I won't even open it until I need it. And I'm like going, okay, so this is just like the kids at parties. So it's not about the things that really make you happy. I traveled to Cambodia. My son married a Cambodian girl, and that was back in 2009, I think it was. And we went to Cambodia. I've been to Cambodia twice now. That's a very poor country. If anybody's ever been to an Asian country similar to something like that, it's amazing to see the people and the things that they don't have. Now, me, of course, I go there. I'm a little bit bigger than most people and heavier. And so I show up to these skinny people there that, I'm a little bit taller, and my son's a lot taller than they are. But anyway, so I'm heavy, and I had to, max out the credit cards to make it there. And so we get there, and everybody thinks I'm rich. I must be, because I can afford to buy food. But the interesting thing there is that most of those people are very happy inside. If they're just able to satisfy their needs, there's just something about them. They're just a happy people, even though they have nothing. They're living in huts in some places. I mean, there's some nice places there now, but my son, back in 2003, when he was there, he was serving a mission for our church. And I went to go get him. And I visited, because he met all these people. I sat on the floor, which, if you know me, I'm not a floor sitter. But I sat in these little houses, little huts, and I was just amazed at how happy the people were, just inside for the things that they had and just for each other. So most of my clients, though, when I work with them, I mentioned this before, there's something just not quite right. Of course, they're not going to come to me if they're perfectly happy anyway. But there's a reason why people come, and usually it's to try and figure out what is it that's keeping me from my happiness. Is this energy? Is this whatever it is? And I thought, wow, okay, this is what prompted me to go ahead and start doing this. So I found out that there are 4 different types of happy. Now, I do use and refer back to the book Happy for No Reason, and that it was written by Marcy. And so these are some of the things, as I've been listening to her and trying to glean the information, I was noticing that she said there's 4 different types of happy. Number 1, you'll see on the left, is unhappy. I mean, a lot of us have been there. I don't have something. I'm alone. I've been abandoned, depressed, anxiety, stress, loneliness. And we just kind of are dealing with a lot of things that we normally wouldn't think we'd have to. But that's just the way it goes. Sometimes when we're unhappy. Now, second one was happy for bad reasons. And I'm going, what is that? And that was when she explained that you need something that you are doing. It is usually some kind of an addiction. You feel like you have to have something over on somebody. It's the mindset of scarcity and that I need it. And sometimes it's like addictions, gambling, sex, alcohol, tobacco, drugs. It could be anything that you're working with that it's an instant gratification, but it really doesn't bring long-term happiness. Any questions on that one? Everybody understand that? Okay, somebody got a question? Okay, so the next one is happy for good reasons. And this, I think, is where most of us will be. It's either in an unhappy part of it, and I'm not saying that you're always going to be happy. But the crazy thing is that there is happy for good reasons. You can be in that area, and it's usually because you have to have some kind of external thing. It's like when I order for something from Amazon, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be fun. When it comes, I will be happy. And when something happens, it will make me happy. When I get more money, I will be happy. And what happens when you get that? That's usually not the case. You think about the people who won the lottery. And in the lottery, you have all this money all of a sudden is available to that person. And usually what happens within a year or maybe two, they've either greatly diminished that amount of money or they've lost it completely. Or they've found that they've got all the things that they want and they're just not happy. And so that's something to think about there when you're thinking about happy for good reasons. Now the happy for no reason, which I'm really wanting to go towards, that's when you're happy within you no matter what. Peace, satisfaction, gratitude. Now, can that happen when you're in a matter of state of need or poverty? Of course, you can still feel that. So one of the things that Marcy did when she wrote this book, she was just kind of in the same quandrum as I was. I was thinking, so what is it that we can do to find out what's really needed for that happiness? So basically what we're dealing with when happy for no reason, one of the things she did was she said she wanted to interview people that were actually happy. And so she was starting to ask people, and you know what? That was a really hard job for her. She was looking for 100 people that were considered happy so that she could interview and try and figure out, what is it that they believed that was causing or allowing them to be happy. She finally found them. It took a while, and when she was talking to them, she found out that she was interviewing people who were not necessarily wealthy, and they were not famous. They were just the normal things that we would think of as happy were not there. In fact, she talked to one guy who was in the Holocaust. He was a survivor, and he says, there was always, no matter what the situation, how horrible it was, and a lot of times the younger ones don't understand what that Holocaust was. I actually visited a concentration camp when I was in Germany, and that had been 25 years earlier. And the only thing that would grow on that ground was ice plant. I mean, nothing else would grow. They'd have these mounds, 15,000 people here, 20, is that right? 10,000, I think, well, not 15,000, 10,000, 5,000, 2,500, 1,000. They had these little areas that were mounded, and that's where these bodies and stuff were placed. It was not a fun thing. Yet there was always somebody, this guy was talking about, that would go from place to place in the barracks, and he would say, "How you doing? Are you is there something I can do to help you? Here's a little bit of bread I saved. Maybe you should have this." And they just seemed to be caring about other people, and they had gone outside of themselves. One there, they told about a story of two monks that had been beaten and tortured, imprisoned, and when they were freed, one of the monks approached the other monk and he said, "So have you forgiven them yet?" And then the other monk said, "I could never forgive them for the things they did to me, the torture, all the things I had to go through." And the other monk, the first one, said, "Well, then they still have you in prison, don't they?" So you think about some of the things that we're dealing with that way. Okay, so let's go to the next slide here. So we have an opportunity to actually find our happiness, and the structure, I didn't put it in here, I was going to, and I don't know if it's going to be in these slides. These are some of the ones that I put together, but I found, or what she explained was that, you know, you've got 100%, and if you break it down, 50% of your happiness is genetic. It's stuff that you've had in your life, you've grown up with, it's the belief systems, probably more than anything else. 10% build the actual surroundings. In other words, your circumstances at the moment is only 10%. And 40% comes from your thoughts, feelings, actions. What are your habits? That is 40% of it. So if you think about it, they call it the happiness continuum, and you can actually have a set point for this particular, so you can see how happy you are. I went ahead and did that for myself, and I thought, okay, so what is my happiness number? Now, you know that when I work with frequencies 101 and stuff like that, a lot of times we'll figure out what it is that you're after, and we'll say, okay, so write down, it's a little bit of homework usually, write down exactly what you want. Say it's money. We're talking kind of about money a lot of times. So how much do you want to have? What do you want to bring in? And I make you go in and say, so what are you going to use that for? And make sure that you validate in your mind. Doesn't matter how much it is. It could be anything. But you need to be able to understand, the more you know about why you need that number, the more real it becomes. And then what we do is we find out what is the frequency for that particular idea or that goal that you're after. And then we find out where you currently are, so we know what we need to do to release the energies and stuff that are keeping you from achieving that frequency. It's like a radio. We have different stations. It doesn't matter if the station is low on the spectrum or high on the spectrum. We want what that station is going to provide us. And so that's kind of the same thing with Frequencies 101. It's very much into laws of abundance. So when you're working with your happiness part of it, you got to create that happiness. And like this, she says here, it's creating a foundation. So basically what we're dealing with here is trying to help you understand that this is something that you can create. So we got a little, one of the things I thought was, well, here's the different areas that we're going to cover, hopefully, if we got enough time here and I don't talk too much. If you have questions about certain things. Contraction and expansion, we're going to go about that. 7 areas of life, and we're going to use kind of a house metaphor. We kind of talked a little bit about the law of attraction, the happiness continuum, and the happiness set point, happiness habits, and success plan. Okay, so we're going to talk about contraction and expansion. Now, you can all see me, right? So think about this. If you are contracting, just kind of hunch down, kind of put a frown on your face and kind of go into a tight ball. Do you feel happy when you're doing that? And then let's go the other direction. Expansion. If you go out and stretch out as far as you can, put a smile on your face, take a deep breath. Do you feel happier than when you were before? Now, I think that if you try this, you're going to actually experience what I'm talking about. So maybe you want to try and do that. One of the things on this continuum is the contraction side and the expansion side. So if you're looking at the contraction side, what you're going to get is unhappiness, fear, pessimism, constriction. All these things are on here, and you're going to feel bad. And if you've ever tried to do this, you'll know what I'm talking about. Tony Robbins used to talk about this all the time in some of the stuff that I was listening to back years and years ago, that if you are in a certain state of mind, that is contracting. Then if you go the opposite direction, expansion, happiness, love, optimism, flow, acceptance, all that is in the process of expanding, and you're going to find that you're happier. Now, that is a physical process. If you're talking down, if you hunch your shoulders a little bit and you start talking like this, and you kind of mumble and sound like my kids sometimes, and what happens is you realize that they're not happy. But if you can change your actual physical part of it, that makes a difference. Here's the house metaphor. Okay, so you've got your responsibility, relationships, but here's your mind, heart, soul, and your body there. So there's four different parts. There's actually 7 that they talk about. To make sure I cover the spots here that I want to do. If you were to build a house, you wouldn't raise the walls and call it a day. You'd want to make sure that you've got a solid foundation. You want to put a roof on this thing. There's 7 areas of our lives. And because the house, we're going to use this as our metaphor, we're going to build the home for happiness. There's 7 steps. Think about this as we go through this. Think about something that you're working with right now that's causing you a problem. You know, it's bothering you. It might be keeping you awake. It might be on a scale of 1 to 10. Think about where it is, with 1 being I'm not satisfied at all, and 10 being I'm satisfied. And you have to think about it and say, so what one thing could I do that I would say that it was going up the scale? When you start to realize what it is that you need to, that little step, that'll help you along the way to get to where you want to be. Now, some of these examples in here say, make sure I get this right, because it was a new concept to me here. So you always want to make sure that you're trying to think about it and not reacting like a victim. Okay, so here's kind of the expansion versus the contraction. So if you are, with personal power, reacting like it's a victim, complaining about problems, blaming others, feeling guilt or shame, you're heading towards the contraction part of it. If you're responding like a victor, focusing on solutions, looking for a lesson and the gift, and making peace with yourself, you're looking at the expansion. I guess what I'm trying to tell you here is that this is really a choice that you have. I'm going to speed up a little bit here because, once again, if you're thinking negative, judging, worrying, overthinking, dwelling on the bad, you're heading towards the contraction. If you're thinking positive thoughts, accepting, trusting, clear thinking, savoring the good, you're heading towards expansion. So just remember that continuum's always going back and forth. So the more you can stay on the expansion part, the better. Now let me go, and I'm going to just jump ahead a little bit further here. Is it okay if we go into some of my stuff here? I'm going to go ahead and change this up a little bit, because you know what? I did a session on myself, and I thought, is this something that I can do a session on? Okay, so most of you who've had a session with me know that I go ahead and I put this stuff up in the focus. So just like we were looking for the radio frequency for whatever goal we were looking for before when we were talking about the frequencies, we do the same thing with the happiness factor. Only this time, 100 is our goal. Are you with me so far? Give me a thumbs up if you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we want to achieve 100. Now, when I tested myself, crazy as it sounds, it came up with a 63. Now, you got to remember, it's broken down into different parts. Now, you'll notice that right here, in this area right here, I wonder if I can, probably not. You'll notice that I put that as A. Remember, 50% was genetics? So this is my genetics part. B is that 10% of circumstances, and C is equal to 40% of thoughts, actions, and habits. So there's the 100%. Okay, so I know that. My number came up at 63, and I said, okay, so based on that number, how much of this is really mine? And I was at a 34 for just the genetics part. And circumstances was a 7. And thoughts, actions, and habits was 22. So that equaled my 63. So I thought, okay, is there something I can do to help me with this? Now, this is what I'm going to be putting together for those of you who are looking for a chart to use. So I'm going to create some charts for this. Just be aware of that for future reference. And for those of you who are ultimate healers, are going to come to the retreat that we have in November. One of the evenings, we got a special evening we're putting together. It includes dinner, but we're going to go over the charts for this happiness factor. It's pretty cool. But what I did here, I noticed that I'm thinking, well, what part of me am I able to work on using muscle testing? And lo and behold, I can work on any of these areas. And I thought, my gosh, I didn't realize I could get into that genetic part. I had a miasm, emotional stress I inherited from my grandmother, my father's mother, and it also, once again, passed on, so you can still affect those around you. And then I had a barrier. Now, I've done this with a number of people in this last week since I've been working with this. I think I've probably done 4 different sessions where we went in and we tried to figure out what was going on with them on a happiness factor because they were not happy. And I thought, well, let's try this. And their body said, yes, I want to do this. So there seems to be a system or a regular flow that goes on when I'm working with people. One of them is they get a barrier. Now, you've heard of a heart wall, and the walls that we find, there could be walls around your brain, could be walls around your elbow, it could be different walls. But a wall, in the interpretation that I use it, is it keeps people from getting to you. Does that make sense? It keeps everybody else out. It's a wall around you. It's the wall with the moat. And so when you get a barrier, it's exactly the opposite. It's keeping you out. So the goal that you're after has got a barrier there. So I said, I always do this. I said, how many inches is it? I don't give it an option and tell me something other kind of measurement, unless I was working with somebody from Europe and they went centimeters or Canada. But I usually go, how many inches? And so it was 7 inches. They're made of emotions, and it's keeping me from being happy. So what I did was I went in there and I said, okay, so is there a trapped emotion that's keeping me from being happy that I need to release for this barrier, to get rid of this barrier? And the first one was failure. And look, it wasn't even mine. Remember, genetics, right? We are looking at mother, father, mother, plus all. I just went ahead and did it. And after I released that one, I dropped from 7 inches down to 4. The next one was abandonment. And look at this one. This went back 13 generations. Father, father, father. Then I go back 13 generations. I go for the first 4, and then I ask, is it further? Is it go back a long ways? And if it's within 10, it'll tell me no, and then I'll find out every single one of them. But if it's more than 10, it'll tell me yeah, and I'll say, okay, is it 10, 15? In this situation, I said 15, 14, 13, 13. So it starts 13 generations, and it started with a father, a grandfather, but obviously it can go sideways. So once again, I'm releasing abandonment, and notice it dropped down another 2 inches. So I dropped down 2 inches there. The next one was peeved. Was it mine? Oh no. It went back 23 generations. That's crazy. A lot of people, starting with the mother. And it was everybody. So I released another inch. And of course, it wasn't good enough. We still had one more, hopeless. And once again, was not even mine that was keeping me as a barrier. So I'm like mother, father, mother, plus all. And that dropped me down there where I was able to clear that. And I thought, okay, so now what's going on? So this is something that I found that everybody seems to have, is a barrier keeping them from their happiness. This is the genetic part. So the next part I find is that we end up with what I call a frequency balance. And if you ever had a summary that had a little triangle on it, that's a frequency balance. So what's going on there is you have 3 guardians that are protecting you, or in a way, they're 3 guardians that they're like, it's like a set of parents, basically. If you can get all 3 of them to agree, then you get to do it. If not, if one of them disagrees, it says, okay, that ain't gonna happen. So this one, frequency balance, once again, too happy. And I found that usually that's what this is. It usually comes after you get rid of the barrier. So once I get down here, and I notice, and so it's body, mind, and spirit. Those are the 3 triad that are going to, guard you, to keep you from going somewhere. And we always figure 100%. Well, 100% means I have to go 33.3. So I say 99. Is everybody's at 99? Then I can go where I need to go, and everybody says it's okay to be happy. So my body, mind, and spirit. Now this is the way I do it. Some people put the spirit on the angle and the body on the angle and the mind. I just happen to do it this way. And I put the goal, if it's like one word, in the middle. And then I write where you really are. Now, this is using muscle testing. And in my situation, I was a 12 with my body. Interesting. Mind was also a 12. I'm going, wow, that's 2 of them. How's the spirit? It was at 2. Now, 33 is the passing number. So I'm a long way from where I need to be. So what I do is I ask, oh, which one should I work on? And it says mind. So I write over here, mind 12 is where I start. And then I try to figure out what do I need to do for that. Let's move this up here a little bit. First one, I find out that I had an emotional resonance, which is a trapped emotion that's still vibrating, of low self-esteem. Now, I've done a crap load of work on myself, but it seems like there's always something. I mean, my file is the thickest when I work on myself, and low self-esteem. I'm going, when was this? This was 33 years ago, 1989, when I was 29. I'm going, yeah, that's about right. I don't even question it anymore. If it pops up, I know it's something that was going on. And sometimes I go and figure out what it is. Okay, so I was able to release that, didn't pass it on. Next one was horror at age 20, 1999. No, that was 20 years ago. I'm sorry. I was 42. Well, that one was pretty good. That was my divorce. So that was when that was probably announced to me that you're not coming home. Well, horror for me was outrage. I couldn't believe it. I was at an airport wanting to come home. She goes, you can't come here. I got your sister coming to pick you up. So this is probably that particular scenario. So I was able to release that, something I'd never worked with before, apparently. But it was affecting me, and my guess is probably my family. The next one was a mental memory, a multi-event. I was asked, is this a single event? Is this mine, first of all? And then is it a single event? It says, no, it's a multiple event. I said, okay, so what is it? I always ask, is there an emotion tied to it? And usually the answer is going to be yes. In this situation, there was 3: failure, effort unreceived, and lack of control. I had no control. I just seemed to fail, and nothing I did was working. So I was able to go ahead and release that. Now, what part of if we go up here a little bit, back up here to the top, is this part of thoughts, actions, and habits, or genetics? At this point, we're working with C. That's what I'm going, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter where it's going. In fact, this balance here, everything was working with C, thoughts, habits, and actions. Is everybody still on board with me? Am I losing anybody? We're good? Okay, good. So let's go down here and let's look further as I bare my soul to you all. So anyway, so I released this, and then I went down here. I had another memory. 39 years ago, 1980, age 23, failure. So when I allowed a company to hire me away and I never got my college degree. Okay, so, and then the job was horrible. I hated the job. So that was loss of school. That's what it tested. Then I had a psychic trauma way back when I was 6 in school. It was bullies. I had a trauma of crying and helplessness and failure. And that was a big one. So I released these. All of these things have been released. That's the beauty of using the emotion code and the body code and the ultimate healer system to go in and figure out what is going on with this stuff. Then I had another intolerance to tyranny. Well, who knows when that started? I didn't find out. So somebody telling me what to do, I didn't apparently appreciate it. I still don't apparently appreciate it. But I had an intolerance to the toxicity level. So then there was a misalignment in my connective tissues with the fascia, misalignment with my bladder, and I'm going, is that what's waking me up at night? So anyway, it could be an imbalance there, but if there's a misalignment, doesn't mean it's not working right, but there's pressure there. And the pressure ended up being 60 years ago when I was 2 years old, something about responsibility from my dad. My mom tells a story. She says that my dad picked me up one day when I was 2, and he said, Tommy, you're acting like a 2-year-old. You need to stop that. And so she realized what, she helped him realize. My dad started to laugh, and he goes, okay, so he is a 2-year-old. So, but different things. I was the oldest. I was the first one. My dad never had any siblings, and he never had a dad at home. So this was all new stuff for him. We experienced a lot together. I love my dad. He was a great dad. Anyway, but it was enough that, look at this, that was the end of that one. And when I went back up here, now that put my 12 up to 33. So I went over here and I put the mind at 33. Next one it said to do was the spirit, which was way the heck down there. I'm worried about the fact that, look how close I am to the bottom of the page. And one of the things I've noticed is that the subconscious knows where my limit is. And it seems to work with you. Now, it could be time, but I've also noticed that when I get to the bottom of this page, it's usually time to stop. And I was a little concerned because here I am. It was at 2. Actually, when I got done with this one here, I tested. I said, am I still at 2? And lo and behold, some of the stuff up here actually brought me up to 7. And then I said, okay, so what do I got going on here? Well, an emotional resonance, again, a failure from 6 years ago. That was when we left we were, well, not quite. There was some rough stuff going on here. And then there was a memory from 8 years ago when it was 2011, low self-esteem, depression, failure, and helplessness. Well, gosh, that was right after I went through a bankruptcy because of a restaurant. Understandable. So I was able to release that, and look at that. That brought me from 7 all the way up to 33, just releasing these 2 items. And then I went and looked at 12. I was still at a 12. Actually, no, the 12 had turned to a 25 for the body. And then when I released these 3 items, hopelessness from the loss of the restaurant 10 years ago, nervous, somatic, superficial, perennial malfunction because of toxins. Let's see, that was 2017. I was 60. Self-medicating somehow. I don't know if it was food or what it was. Energy, some kind of energy. After that, I was able to bring that to a 33. So I thought, okay, so that's crazy. Let's go ahead and see. There are 5 days of processing. But look what it did. It brought the genetics from 34 down to 23, which is a good thing. And then the circumstances went from 7 down to 4 because we cleared them. And the thoughts and actions, the things I can control, went from 22% to 56%, which is a good thing. So when you add those all together, I went to 83. And then there was one other thing at the bottom I did. Did I put it way down there? Oh, it's here. Okay, so this is where it was. This is where I did the toxins and stuff. It actually brought me up another 5 points, so I ended up with 88 points out of 100. Now, the scale, and I'm not sure if it's on the chart there or not, but I have it right here. The scale, and there's what I'll do is I will, when I put this out there and I post it out there, I'll post the questions so that you can do your own test to see if how happy you are. But if you have a score under 40, you have little experience of being happy for no reason, almost no experience. The second one, if your score is 40 to 59, you have glimpses of being happy for no reason. Now remember, I was at 63. If your score is 60 to 79, you have a good measure of being happy for no reason. My wife tested at 78, or no, 79. I think she actually had 79. And then if your score is 80 to 100, to a great degree, you are happy for no reason. Does that make sense to you folks? It's neat that you could actually go in and do that. So I've got a questionnaire. I'll put it out there when I post this out there. Or let you ask some questions. You got some questions for me?
It looks like you can use that body, mind, spirit triangle probably for a lot of different things.
Well, you'll find it's actually in the Ultimate Healer that you've got. The cool thing about this is the part that I think we've been missing on a lot of things is is what is the part that the client or the person or yourself that you need to do rather than just releasing things. And that is where we work with the 40% usually. Normally, you think about it. If you had 40% control and you're able to add 40% to whatever you found from genetics and your circumstances, that would be a good number. But the fact that you can go in and you can actually manipulate the other ones and release energies that are keeping you from being happy for no reason, that's a big thing. I mean, you talk about these qualities, having a sense of lightness and buoyancy, feeling alive, vital, energetic. Let me explain something. And I never thought I would use this as an example. When I moved from Texas to Arizona, we had a truck, and just like when the Navy moves a fleet from one place to the other, if they're going to stay together, their top speed is the slowest vessel. Okay, so you think about that. I knew that my wife refuses to go speed. It drives me crazy sometimes because I'll lose her, and I have a tendency to have a little heavier foot. But in that situation, we had her car pulling a trailer, and I was driving a 26-foot truck with a trailer. And so we were moving along at a whopping speed of between 55 miles and 60 an hour. And I found that because I knew that that was the case, I was able to relax and just go along, and nobody bothered me. It was everybody else's problem. It wasn't my problem anymore. How am I going to get around this car and get up there? Oh, let's lay out. And I read, if I'm out there in that mode of mind, I read the traffic just kind of like a river, and I'm looking for, okay, I can slide in here, I can do this, and I can get to my spot faster. And you think about it, how much faster did I really get there? Minutes, but that was really revealing to me that I could just travel at that speed, and everybody else, and I was happy. I listened to tapes, and I was like going, why wouldn't this work in real life? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm a guy, I look at things a little bit differently sometimes, but that's why it was so hard for Marcy to find 100, the happy 100 that were truly happy. So another quick story, this woman who's in a wheelchair and has suffered a long time, she goes and she finally, one of her bucket list items was to meet this monk, this holy man. And she thought that when she went and saw him and she expressed what she was doing, he would have sympathy for her and tell her what she could do. So she shows up and he listens to her story. And then afterwards he says, you need to get over yourself. You need to get past yourself and help other people. That was his response. And it was simply, I've noticed that when we are in depression, when we are in anxiety, when we have these stressful things, a lot of times, what are we doing? We're contracting. We're focusing on us. And one of the things that I've noticed, and from a lot of different sources, they say, go volunteer at a food bank or something, or go help somebody. Actually do something for somebody else. It takes your mind off of what you are focusing on, and it also makes you feel good. So there's a whole bunch of activities. Now, I'm telling you this because I'm turning this into a full day class. I purchased the rights to teach this class and twist it however I want. And I think it's going to be a really, really good class, because this, I think, is the missing part of what we've been dealing with. Here's some of the qualities for being happy for no reason. This is continued from this previous one of having a light sense of buoyancy, feeling gratitude, feeling forgiveness, being at peace, being fully present. When we do this class, it'll be a, there'll be a centering exercise, and then we've got a lot of really cool stuff that we're going to go in and work with. One of them, if you take a pen and you grip it like this, you can use it, but it's like holding on to things. You can use it this way, but in reality, what we need to do is we need to be opening our hand, and the pen is the issues, the stuff that's holding us down, and roll it around. And once again, all you got to do is turn your hand over and that part of it's gone. When we can get to the point where we can not accept or get rid of something, that makes the difference. Think about the two monks that were imprisoned. You know, the one said, have you forgiven them yet? And the other one said, I will never forgive them. So what does that do? That keeps you tied to that event. Same thing, you know, my divorce, my loss of my restaurant. There's different things in my life that I am willing just to forget. Remember my cruise? I told everybody about the cruise, and, you know, I got there late, and I should have. You know what? I just let it go. I didn't bother them for refunds. I didn't bother them for anything. And I expect the world to do the same for me. Here, I should just be turning off this share here. Let's see. There we go. Can you see me? Great. So anyway, that's the thing that we want to try and get to, is to the point where we don't let things contract us. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to learn how to let go and expand from that. Any other questions before I let you go? I sure love you guys. I look forward to doing this work with you all. And oh, one of the things, we'll go ahead and we'll stop that part of it. But, you know, we've got a lot of excited people that are coming to the Ultimate Healer Retreat. And we're going to do a special day. For those people that come a day early, we're going to go. We have rented a van already. I'm going to go up. We're going to go to Sedona. And we're going to spend the day. We're going to do a field trip. And I'm looking forward to, I've got a bunch of stuff planned, and we got some cool stuff going on. The thought, well, not the thought, the comments are, how come we can't go? So here's the deal. This is the Ultimate Healers is November, but in January, I am planning on having a MasterMind training, and we're going to call it a conference. It's going to be a 3-day conference that anybody who would like to come, we'll talk about some of the stuff that we've already done, but we'll give you an opportunity to expand. Hopefully some of the Ultimate Healers will be there also, so that you can get an opportunity to work with them. What do you think of that? Is that a good idea?
Yes.
I think that, you know, it's when you get together that makes all the difference. Now, Miss Harvetta and Marilyn, I don't know if she's on here tonight, but we're going to be in Las Vegas, not this weekend, but the following weekend. You know, just that opportunity to be there with all the others and get an opportunity to get some other perspectives. I don't do things the way other people do in a lot of cases. And that's what I think is the cool part about things. If we can get together, January, would that be a good time for y'all?
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound like a good time? We'll try and do it, you know, not right after Christmas, but maybe a little bit later. And then we'll probably do it down here in Goodyear, where I'm at right now. You know, I keep thinking I was going to move more east. I don't know. I like this area. I might end up staying here. So that's the plan. I've got some really cool stuff coming up as far as putting it together. Some charts, and give you an opportunity. Who knows, we might have some special opportunities for Ultimate Healer joining and that kind of thing too. Which reminds me, one other thing. If you're interested in coming in November, which is not much notice, I will open up this class. I've got people hounding me to be into the Ultimate Healer. I'm going to do, in a 1 week's time, I'm going to open it up for about a week. If people want to join the Ultimate Healer program, you can come to the event in November also. People have an interest in that and want to get into that. I will be working with those people as well as the existing Ultimate Healers. We kind of were on a hiatus right now because we went through our training, but when we start another class, we start doing the 2-week calls. And I think you all enjoy that, don't you, Harvetta? Yeah, so.
Oh, yes, but I was muted.
Oh, okay, that's no problem. I can see your head bobbing. So, okay, well, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows I will send emails out about the Ultimate Healer opening up for a week, because, you know, it is kind of late notice for people who want to come down, but we're going to have a lot of fun. And right now we've got about 12 or 13 people that are going to be there. So it's enough to have a great time, very intimate, and if you want to be a part of that, this will be a good time to come. All right, anything else? Isn't it fun? Now think about the events that we've been to together. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that bind us together, and that's what makes our little family. I just want to appreciate you all. So, All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting, and I'll get this out there as quick as I can on the website. Remember, there are 2 seasons. The first one, the season 1, most people are signed up for season 1, which are 9 sessions. There's a lot of good training there, but sign up for season 2. It's free. All you got to do is purchase it for free, and you'll have access, because that's where this class is going to go. Okay? All right. See y'all later.